Hello guys, this is me here. Today we're going to do a review on a monster that might make you want to get a drink of Fruitopia or some juice, because we're going to do a review on the juice Choju and another one from the A series who is also a Choju called Hanzagiran. Sorry about that, sometimes I'm not always good at editing, but I do try my best. Yeah, he is definitely, so he's basically a Choju that was manipulated by some elderly guy who did not like how the village was. Because when he was because of some environment issue, that when the elderly person was there was like this grandpa man or something, or this elderly man, he was like, you're destroying the environment. Unfortunately, he took his matters into his own hands too far, to where he turned this salamander, well, hanzagiran is basically a salamander, but he looks more like something else though. But he was, because he originally is a disguise of a salamander, but then the salamander turned into him, obviously, who eventually was destroying everything and was destroying the city. Not the city, the town. Eventually, or the village. He eventually was, like, he got attacked by Ultraman Ace, and they were fighting, obviously, like how a regular battle was. He did have some powers that were kind of effective to Ultraman Ace, but not too much. Like, he did have an acidic spray that can destroy rocks and people, but it's not enough to destroy an Ultra. Eventually, he did get defeated by Ultraman Ace, but it wasn't in a way that was like all others, to where they just killed him instantly. It was in a way to where he put this, it's like he was inside of a weird capsule thing, to where he turned into a salamander. So yeah, that was just it. And his subtitle name, and like I said, he's known as the Juice Choju, or the Fruit Monster. Yeah, I know, it's like, hey, that makes me thirsty. I want to have something like Fruitopia or orange juice. Can I have that, please? No, I don't mean this monster. This monster probably tastes bad if you had it. Just joking. Anyways, this is not just a Choju from the A series. He's also a, he's kind of like a knockoff version of the Spark Doll. However, kind of like with Vakashim, he has a slightly different mold to him, but you can imagine that he was probably based on the Spark Doll one. But he is a little bit different. Because from what I can tell, there's no articulation on the legs, and it seems to be just one piece of plastic, but there's two pieces joined, because, and you'll see about it later. But first, let's get on to the details. That was the history. He appeared in Ultraman Ace. He did make a cameo appearance, but the only cameo appearances he's done was when his back was reused for the monster Tyrant, who was known as the fusion monster, or the Dispo monster. See the spikes there? And also, I should also mention, the tail is also a mix between King Krabs and a Hanzagiran. Why? Because if you look, his tail is actually like the base of it is from a King Krabs, even the little tip tail is, but the spikes here, like these bristle things, are from Hanzagiran, because if you look, he has like two bristle things. That's probably why some people got confused and thought that it was, like, let's say, a Hanzagiran's tail. What it basically is, the base of it is a King Krab's tail, like the bulb segmented tail part. That's from King Krab, and so is the spiky tip. But this bristle part, just the bristle spikes, are from Hanzagiran, because there's no way it would be from King Krabs. If you look at King Krabs, he just has one spike on each tail, so I don't know how could that be possible. So I honestly think it's actually a mix between, like, because the spikes aren't just from Hanzagiran, the bristle tail part is from Hanzagiran as well, but the base of it is from King Krabs. So there you go. So he did make an appearance, but just like the body part of it. But so far, he is a cool monster, though, even though he didn't make too many appearances. Now let's get on to the detailing, because I just didn't have time to. The detail is actually quite nice, even though there is not too much of him. I mean, like, for an example, like his face, for some reason, like, parts of it is a little bit green. But then when it gets to, like, the body part, it's all silver, which is, like, his accurate paint job. I'm not exactly sure why, but parts of his back is, like, a little bit more greenish. Not greenish, but it's, like, a gold color. But that's okay. I mean, I kind of like the color gold. The spikes here and, like, the spike thing on his head is also accurate. For some reason, and I don't know why, but he's supposed to have it, he has, like, this pot leaf-like pattern on his neck here, as you can see. It kind of gives him, like, that flower look. And he also has red lips, and he also has red eyes as well, which I just find interesting because some of my creatures or monsters, from what I've seen, actually have red eyes, so that's just kind of interesting. I don't know why. But they just have it. But so far, the details on him is quite, I mean, because he's just a generic monster, he doesn't have too much. I do like how they did the texture detail, and then they kind of give him that look to where he feels kind of like a skin thing or whatever. Maybe not too much, but I do like how he give him that rocky texture. Because he's based on, like, a salamander. However, his body part, like, the spikes could be from, like, some type of a creature, maybe not a porcupine, but it kind of came from, like, let's say an ankylosaurus or something. However, parts like the bristle part, or not the bristle, but like this shell design could be from, like, a armadillo, and the feet could be, like, from some sort of an aquatic reptile, maybe some sort of a aquatic lizard. The face kind of looks like a dinosaur, and his fin thing kind of looks like a stegosaurus. So he kind of has, like, a strange body design, but he does look pretty cool. And I mean, it's quite nice because there's not too many creatures, and it's like with the other one, like with this one here, you don't see too many creatures to where they have, like, this type of suit design to where they have, like, the two men suit, or you don't have these ones to where it's like they're on 4 legs. So it's kind of cool how I have some monsters to where I have a monster to where they have the 4 legs design, but then I have this other one that is, like, on a quadrupedal look or whatever, kind of like on a dinosaur or whatever. But yeah, there you go. So overall, the details are pretty good. Now let's get on to the articulation. I always thought that the king crab creature was bad, but this actually, unfortunately, has he has an articulating... Sorry about that, guys. I thought something happened at my house, and I'm not gonna say what it is, but I thought some dude was, like, I don't know what it was, but I'm not gonna say what it was about. But anyways, his articulating point is not so, like... I would have had wished his foot had moved, but they don't, maybe because of his design. What does move, and I don't think it's that bad, but I just don't know why, is that his torso can rotate 360 degrees. I think it's because he always does this to where he's like, roar, like he just does that. So maybe you want to make him look like he's like, I don't know, you could like do that or something. It does look a little bit weird, but it's kind of better than nothing. Too bad his other, like, parts, like the tail don't move. It would have been nice, or like the head. Actually, if they did the head, it was probably going to be impossible, because if you look at the design, it just, how are they going to do the head? So yeah, so there's actually only one point of articulation, which is just kind of, I mean, I thought that the king crab figure was bad. I think what was bad about it was his sizing, but the articulating point is a little, because it's like the only thing that just moves is his torso only, but it's okay. I mean, it's one of those figures to where they couldn't always, I mean, I don't mind. Plus, you could just do this. I mean, he doesn't always, all he just does is he just does this and just, you know, does that. I mean, what do you expect? He's actually a modified... He was actually a modified suit from, like, another Choju called Zagon, who was a rhino terrible monster. They took that monster and they turned him into hanzagiran. So hanzagiran is basically a modified Zagon suit, or Zygon suit, whatever it was. It was this rhino monster. But anyway, yeah, he was also a Choju as well. For the scaling here, since we're done with articulation and detail, the scaling here so far looks okay. I actually think it's perfect with King Crab. What about Barba, who I did a review on? The scale is perfect as well. It's like, the scaling on it is perfect. I think for hanzagiran, he's probably going to get a 10 out of 10, even if he's missing an articulating point. How about Brocken, who is also another Choju? This is accurate. He's supposed to be, like, that small. What about Vakishim? I think he's supposed to be a little bit bigger, but it's not terrible, but I don't know. How about an Ultra, like Ultraman Jack? I don't know what happened to my other Ultraman, but I did have him, though. He's not Ultraman Ace, it's just the regular one. The sizing is not too accurate, but it's not as terrible. I mean, he's always in this position, so it's not like he was towering over it, so I would assume this could be the right size, but I don't know. So, but if you want, you could just do a video on that. Actually, I do have he's actually 59 meters tall, so maybe he's not... Yeah, actually, the scale is not that bad, so he shouldn't go so bad. I just found out now. What about King Ghidorah? Ooh, this is fantastic. He goes pretty good, and actually, if you wanted to, since he's spiky like Anguirus, you could do the replica to where he steps on him or something. Evil King Ghidorah. How about Red King, who was also... Actually, these 4 monsters were part of the Tyrant family. These 4 here. So, with Red King, he's actually supposed to be a little bit bigger, but this doesn't look too bad. I mean, he's always on his 4-leg pose, so what do you expect? How about a King Kong? It works. King Kong, I mean, this is like the Skull Island one, so it shouldn't be terrible. How about a Godzilla? If you want to, you can make him look a little bit more intimidating, but it depends of what size you're using. I have a larger scale of that same Godzilla, but it's like the Kong versus Godzilla one. This is perfect. Since Godzilla's 100 meters nowadays, the scale is fantastic. How about Jumbo King? We haven't seen him in a while. Jumbo King, actually, it's okay. It's not terrible. I mean, actually, because Jumbo King is actually 59 meters, and actually, they're about the same size. I just realized that. I forgot about that, but I remembered. Yeah, so the scaling on these two are perfect. I do think that, you know, it's good, because he's actually 59 meters as well. They're both 59. What about Neronga? I'm not so sure. I believe he's supposed to be bigger, but this doesn't look terrible or anything, so it looks fine to me. What about a crustaceous creature? Here's Ibria, or whichever, like, I don't know, a giant lobster or whatever. Yeah, that doesn't look bad either. I think it looks okay. Oops, sorry. What about, Duraco? Yeah, it works. This works. It's pretty good. What about a Yeti? If you wanted to, you could, but it wouldn't look realistic because Yetis are like they're always in the snow. So what do you expect? They're like abominable snowmans. How about a Sadora, who also appeared in the 70s, but not in Ultraman Ace? Yeah, this works. It works good. For King Caesar, same thing, maybe a little bit bigger, but it's actually okay. How about Tyrant? I don't know if you saw on Tyrant. I actually think that, I mean, he's 62 meters, so I think hanzagiran should be a little bit bigger, but this is okay. But I do think he's a little bit too small, maybe like height-wise, not width-wise. How about a Paragon? Paragon, I think, is supposed to be bigger, but this looks okay. At least he's tall. How about some fighter jets or something? Yeah, this works. This works. I mean, if you wanted to, you could just, you know, bash them with that or whatever with his big armor. It's been told that his armor is quite thick and strong, so that's quite interesting. How about a four-legged creature, except it's the Rhedosaurus? Depending of which scale you're scaling them on, this may not be too accurate, although I do think in real life he's actually bigger, but if you want, you could have I don't know, two dinosaur-looking creatures fight with each other. He doesn't have too much of what I call a Choju power. It's not like any other Chojus where they just breathe out fire or anything, so he's not as strong. But he is a okay foe. It's just his armor that made him a very good monster. But everything else, it's not so great. But it's okay for the most part. How about a Kraken? Looks good to me. Did I do any other scalings? What about a jumbo jet or something? A Boeing 747? Yep. Looks good. And one more. Gamora. I actually think he should be a lot bigger, not small, but yeah, it's okay. If you want, you could do a video called Gamora versus hanzagiran or whatever. Now, I believe this is like the last video to where I do reviews on these AliExpress. I might get more maybe one day, but for now, this is what I just got. So, I mean, overall, for hanzagiran, I would actually give this figure a, I was gonna give him a 9 out of 10, but because he's a lot more detailed, or because he's, you know, his sizing is just awesome, I would give him a 10 out of 10. The only problem about him is the articulating point, but that could be an understatement, or that's just understandable. I mean, he's not those types of creatures to where they all have, like I wouldn't even expect them to be on an Ultra Act. Like, if they did an Ultra Act, I wouldn't even expect them to be there. Maybe something like Tyrant, Vakashim, or Brocken, but not hanzagiran. He probably wouldn't be a good candidate. He's good for, like, X plus figures if you wanted him to. I mean, they do sell hanzagiran in many different shapes and forms. So, I mean, if you want, you can get a, you can get, like, let's say the, I mean, if they have the Spark Doll one, and if you want, you can get the Spark Doll one, but if you want to get a knockoff version like how I did, you can get that as well. Even as a knockoff, and, well, I mean, he's a slightly different mold, and actually, for some reason, he's a lot more harder. The only way that I squashed him was when I mean, he is soft, but he's not as soft. I don't know why, but it's okay. Anyways, so for hanzagiran, I would give this figure a 10 out of 10. Paint job is pretty good. Articulation is not very good. I would prefer King Crab's articulation than him, but the scaling is actually pretty good. So if you can get over the articulation, he is a must-have figure. If you think he looks good with, like, your dinosaur creatures or whatever, go ahead and pick him up. If you also think that he's, you know, like a monster that is because he's a Choju and you want to have a collection of Chojus like Velocron, Dorogoras, he goes well with it as well. Otherwise, I mean he's not too, because he's just kind of obscure, so he's just not too well known, but he is a good monster anyways. Like, I kind of think he's pretty cool. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys later. Goodbye. Rawr, you want some juice?